It's October! And you know what that means?
The leaves are falling off the trees, stores have spooky decorations in stock, and Starbucks is serving up pumpkin spice latte.
It's the Halloween season, and it's the perfect time to read horror novels to get into the holiday spirit. You got the usuals like Stephen King, and nothing else. But there are truly frightful books and don't get much attention as they should, and that's what I want to discuss in this video.
These are the top 5 horror novels I recommend in no particular order. Back in the early 2010s, internet horror stories called creepypasta, a term variation of copypasta, which is a combination of words, copy, and paste, were popular and spanned scary tales like Candle Cove, No End House, Slenderman, Jeff the Killer, and many more. Pen Pal by David Auerbach started out as a creepypasta and later on became a published book. The story is about a nameless narrator telling a series of non-linear, mysterious events that happened to him in his childhood, and they're quite unsettling.
This book creeped me out the first time I read it, and it doesn't feature any blood, gore, or any supernatural ghosts. This is more of a grounded reality type of horror, where the true fear comes from confronting a real evil that occurs in life. And if that's something you're not interested in reading, then don't worry, I have 4 other books to recommend.
Another by Yukito Ayasuchi comes from Japan, a country that's well known for telling the scariest ghost stories, and this is no exception. It tells a story about a kid named Kokichi going to a new middle school, and he's been placed in class 3, which is the worst classroom you could be in, because it has a deadly curse. Not only students and teachers die, but they die in the most brutal way possible, and Kokichi has to figure out how to stop it before it kills him and his close friends.
Basically, this is the Japanese version of Final Destination, which the author did take inspiration from, and if you like those movies, then you'll like this.
Richard Matheson was one of the most influential science fiction horror writers of all time. His works such as The Incredible Shrinking Man, Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, and I Am Legend would influence generations of writers like Stephen King. Hell House is one of his best and is about a group of 4 people who are hired to investigate the Mount Everest of all haunted houses, the Belusco House, known as Hell House, to see if there is life beyond death. And as you expected, all sorts of supernatural shit starts happening during their time there.
It has the best atmosphere of any ghost story, which makes it the perfect read for the Halloween season. However, there are a few moments that are unintentionally funny.
For example, there's a scene where one of the characters gets brutally attacked by a cat, and I couldn't help myself visualizing it in a comedic fashion. It was funny in the 1973 movie adaptation.
What in the name of God?
And it was hilarious when it got parodied in Scary Movie 2.
Help! My pussy's gone crazy!
Despite some scenes not aging well, Hell House is still one of the best haunted house stories of all time, and without it, we wouldn't have The Shining. Or at least not the version we got.
R.L. Stine is well known for writing the Goosebumps books that have been adapted to television, movies, and video games that scared generations of children. Stories like a creepy ventriloquist dummy coming to life, a girl obtaining a haunted mask that won't come off her face, a family spending a day at a horror theme park that's filled with actual monsters, and many more. Red Rain has the same structure, odd humor, and goofy concept you would expect from a Goosebumps book, but this time it aims towards adults, specifically Stein's original audience who grew up with his books back in the 90s, and it tells the story about a writer named Lee Strutter who travels to a small island off the coast of South Carolina that rains blood. She comes across two particular orphan boys and decides to adopt them. What could go wrong?
If that interests you, I recommend pick up a copy. But reader beware, you're in for a scare.
You might not have heard of Chuck Palahniuk, but you are most likely familiar with his most commercially successful book called Fight Club, which got a film adaptation in 1999, directed by David Fincher, and it stars Brad Pitt and Edward Norton. In the year of 2005, Palahniuk published an anthology horror novel titled Haunted, where the main story is about a group of writers going on a writer's retreat to an isolated building. They would spend a few months with no communication from the outside world to focus on their poetries and short stories, and throughout the book we get to read them. Some are good, some are bad, and some are just downright boring, but the most memorable story is the very first one, called Guts. It's hilarious, disturbing, and disgusting.
When I read it for the first time, I cried out of laughter in the first half and threw up in the second half. This story is not for the faint of heart.
In fact, at the very end of the book, there's a chapter where Palahniuk talks about the people in the audience passing out during his live readings. If you're squeamish, I don't recommend it. But if you're brave enough, it's worth a read.
So that was my list. I hope I got you interested in reading one of them. Please support this video by giving it a like and sharing it, and I hope you all have a safe and spooky Halloween. Bye!